Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Beyond the Case, which is a podcast where global leaders from Harvard Business School's OPM community join in a personal capacity and share the real decisions, mental models, and failures that go behind building enduring companies. My guest today is Jeff Cronkshaw. Jeff was with me in OPM 67. He's someone I respect a lot. I'd like him to introduce himself and his company, and then I'll slowly get to some of the interactions we shared at OPM, which have stayed with me and made me respect him so much. How are you, Jeff?
Thanks, Sohin. Thanks for the very kind words and the invitation to join the podcast. Really proud and happy to join it. Really impressed with what you've done so far with this. So yeah, I'm Jeff. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a management and technology consulting company called Lancia Consult, which my wife and I started nearly 15 years ago. 14 years this year. I've been in IT and systems and management consulting all my career. So to have built a company now with my wife with this is fantastic. Yeah. So that's me and what I do.
Right, Jeff. I typically go about the podcast where I talk about someone's background, etc. But with you, I'd want to come straight to the incident at OPM, where we had Everest case. Your team performed the best. You were the team leader, from what I recollect. And what was shared in class is your team performed well because in a moment of distress, you told your team to slow it down. And that stayed with me. And it reflected in the way your team took decisions thereafter, and hence your team won the Mount Everest case.
Yeah.
So could you talk to me about the philosophy behind slowing it down, and maybe connect that to, what you've gone through in your professional journey, which gave you that insight?
Yeah, no, it was good. It was good fun, that, wasn't it? The Mount I'm going to use that Mount Everest simulation or experiment even with the team at some point. I think it was great. I guess it's not that moment was one of them, but there are situations where there's a lot happening. It could be a crisis, or it could be there's a lot of information coming at you, or there's a lot to deal with. And in that particular situation, it was designed to be a little bit chaotic. And the right thing to do is at certain points, is exactly that. Just slow it all down and start dealing with things much slower, one by one, and then build the speed back up again. I think there's moments in that situation with that. I won't say too much about it because I don't want my team to get too many advantages when we get around to doing it. But there are certain situations, like in that Mount Everest one, where if you don't slow it down, it's going to start getting out of control, and you won't be able to keep on top of all the information. And I think in my career, I've been in many situations, be it negotiations or be it delivery or crisis or incident you're dealing with, all kinds of situations that can trigger it. You need to, it's against what everything your body's telling you to do, which is react and go faster and try and solve the problem or put the fire out or fix the issue. So it's against what you want to do, but actually what you need to do is just slow it down, and then you'll be able to move forward much quicker afterwards. So yeah, it was, I can't remember the exact timing of it in that particular thing, but there was a lot going on and we just needed to slow it all down. And I've been in many situations where that's the case. And the other one that's similar to that is, I think, creating space is similar to slowing down. Is that sometimes you need to create that air gap or that buffer to give yourself time to make a decision, and give yourself time to maybe have the meeting or update your board or client, whatever it is. You don't need to do it tomorrow morning. You don't need to do it in a week. You can control the timeline sometimes. So slow it down, create the space, and you'll generally make a much better decision or an outcome. Yeah. So that was that one. Yeah, it's good fun.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, now walk us through your professional journey. Did you start out of college and build Lancia Consult, or was there something else you did before this?
No. I guess my wife and I, we're both first-time founders, right? So that's one thing to say first of all. So, but we didn't do it straight out of college. No, I worked in corporate initially. Out of university, I did computer science. I did an internship year with a great company, Eli Lilly, global pharmaceutical, very successful. And I was very lucky. You talk about these moments in your life where you have to make your own luck. But I got this internship, a year-long internship with this company, and it was transformative for me. They gave me a graduate offer. I worked for them for, I think, 4 or 5 years after university. and I traveled the world with them. And I didn't know it then, but I was basically consulting inside that company. I was as in an IT consultant type role inside a big corporate, and they were moving me around different divisions, and it was great. But ultimately, I got a bit bored, and I'd always been attracted to consulting proper. And Anderson and what became Accenture was kind of one of the pinnacle consulting firms to join, and I had an opportunity to join them, and did that in the UK. That brought me back to London and UK, and then met my now wife at Accenture, and also a CFO and fellow board member. We also met at the same time in Accenture. My wife and I, before we were married, we then relocated to Asia out of London. So we still in consulting, still with Accenture, moved to Singapore. Long story short, after about 5 years again, roughly, we got married, had our daughter, we bought a house, dog, very settled in Singapore, loving life there. But it wasn't really working for Isabella, the kind of corporate consulting and new child and being a working mum. And it's not an uncommon story. It wasn't quite working for her. So we thought, oh, let's start a company primarily for her initially, so she could do more kind of freelance consulting and do more control the pace of it herself, right? Because she was traveling like crazy, and we had a young daughter at home. And but within about 6 months, less than that, it quickly started pulling me into it as well, because former clients and friends and network were aware of what Isabella was doing. And we'd started it in a kind of company way, kind of ad hoc. But within a few months, I was being pulled into it. I was helping. I was joining calls with Isa. I was helping with clients. And then we sat down just before Christmas that year and said, well, why don't I quit as well? And we do this. We go build a consulting company, which, looking back at it now at 48, when we were 33 or something, feels like insanity, but it felt right at the time. And then I did, and I was doing very well at Accenture. I enjoyed it very, very much there. I had a great time. It taught me an awful lot, and I have a lot of respect for both those companies. But it was right. We wanted to do it, and then we started Lancia. Again, looking back at that, I feels really crazy, but at the time it felt perfectly normal. And then I can go through different moments over the last 14 years, but it started off with the two of us, and literally we built that organically, employee by employee, client by client. And then after about 5-6 years of only being in Southeast Asia, Singapore, we started in UK and Europe. We then expanded in South Africa and more recently Indonesia. Various moments on the journey where there's things that didn't work, obviously organic, founding a business, to where we are today, which is roughly 100 plus people, 110. We're multi-office, multi-country, operate in 3 regions. We're very proud of what the team has built, what we've done. So yeah, it's an amazing journey. And sometimes it feels like a couple of weeks, and other times it feels like centuries. It's hard to explain. It feels a long time ago when we started it, yeah, but it was 14.
Incredible. Could you speak about a few things that didn't work? Everyone talks about success stories. I'm just
Yeah.
eager about what the learning curves were.
Many, right? I think on the course when we're in Boston, we talk about adjacencies, right? And we talk about uh, adjacencies being, and the benefits of that, and the logic. And we've been doing that for a long time ourselves, but just not knowing it, not really thinking about it. So, for example, expanding the business into UK or Europe, but based out of the UK, was an adjacency, and that went fairly smoothly initially, and then had its problems and people issues and client challenges, but you had to persevere at that. That has now progressed. We're very, very proud of what that's progressed into. We tried the same thing in Hong Kong just before COVID, 2018, 2019. If you remember, the troubles in Hong Kong started, and there was some rioting. We were very close to building a team in Hong Kong, but various things happened out of our control. The environment in Hong Kong became very difficult, and it wasn't an adjacency at the time. It was actually too far away from what we were trying to do. The sector we were trying to play into wasn't really close to what we were doing. We had no clients there. Looking back at it, it was almost like it was too much to try and do at the age we were at, and it failed. We came close, but it failed. And then COVID happened, and it completely failed. Likewise, Germany. We worked really hard to try and build out in Hamburg, in Germany, and for different reasons. That felt like an adjacency close to the UK. Feels like a more natural step. Isabel and I moved to Germany to kind of help seed and grow that as well. We came very close, but Germany's quite a strong market. It's quite a distinct market. It's actually not that much of an adjacency to UK and Europe. It operates quite independently, Germany. Although we did manage to progress with a client there, COVID came along out of our control. And it completely stopped that client. That client happened to be affected by COVID as well. So it completely stopped the revenue. And as you know, it took probably 2-3 years to everyone to kind of recover from that disruption. And by the time we did, our UK business had grown so much more that became the clear priority, UK and mainland Europe, and Germany fell to the wayside. And there's other, I mean, I can talk about many other examples. We've tried software products. We've tried doing, again, sectors that we really shouldn't be doing, like pure marketing is not really a consulting thing, for example. So we organically, entrepreneurially tried lots of things. Over time, we've learned where those adjacencies really work and what's the right way of doing that. And that takes experience. And some of it can be taught, like what we did in the course, absolutely. And other times it's just through experience. And I think we're stronger for it now. We're much clearer around what those adjacencies are and how we can grow much more predictably. And you can't remove risk, but you can definitely de-risk parts of it. So that, I'd say the big failures were trying those things. We hindsight, they're probably a step too far, or environmental conditions just you can't control, and you fail.
You started the business when you were 33. You mentioned you had a little one as well.
Yeah.
Were the initial few years such that you were able to focus on your personal life and maintain a balance, given you and your wife were both invested in the business? Or did you struggle with work-life balance?
Actually, I think in the early days, the really early days when it's just Isabella and myself, it was actually quite easy. You know, the first year or so, the first year and a half, 2 years, actually it was probably the easiest you could imagine compared to building out a full global consulting firm, right? So you're in control of it. You've only really got your own resources. It's only the two or three of you. There's only so much you can do. And we were, I'd say initially not really a problem, right? But then as you start adding people and clients, that's when it starts to kick in. And yes, I'd say from a work-life balance, it starts to dominate pretty quick. And you learn, I mean, you know this as well from your business, and you're talking to others who run businesses and own businesses, that it dominates everything. You might be a third, fourth generation family business owner with different pressures and different issues and different challenges and responsibilities. When you're a first-time founder, it's a similar situation. It slowly becomes everything. So your holidays start to orientate around it. Your weekends become prioritized around it. Your financials, your spending, everything starts to become revolved around it. I guess that started to kick in probably around about 2-3 years in, and then it doesn't go away. So initially it wasn't too bad, but again, looking back at it, I think we're quite young to do it, but probably in hindsight now, it gives us a lot of advantages because now we have a 14, 15-year-old company in consulting. Most founders or partners in those sort of firms will probably be in their mid-late 50s because they would have usually started it in their 40s, just typical. We started it much younger. It feels like we've got a long way to go still. We've got a lot of time still, and building consulting firms takes a lot of time. I look back at it, actually, sometimes I think about it as a crazy thing to do at that age. And yes, it's dominated our daughter's life, our personal life, our holidays, our life, everything's been dominated by it. But at the same time, it now gives us a lot of advantages because, our daughter's 3-4 years from university. We've got 15 years of company in the bank. We've got a great team. We're building a lot of momentum, and we've got tons of time ahead of us. So I see a lot of firms and consulting firms that have started later in age, and I think it inevitably your priorities shift when you get into your late 50s and early 60s. Your priorities are shifting quite quickly. So I look at it now as an advantage. Although, it did dominate our lives in our late 30s, early 40s. It still does, but very much so back then, yeah.
Is your wife a part of OPM as well?
Not yet, but she might come to a guest lecture this unit too. It works with the dates and holidays and school holidays and all those sort of things. I'm hoping she'll come to a guest lecture, and then maybe she'll join a different one. Maybe as we're finishing, she may start her own one maybe a year later. I think she should. I really think she should. But I think she needs to come to a guest class first.
How many dives have you taken underwater in terms of scuba diving?
I don't know exactly, but it's at least 400 plus. I went for a big phase of diving. I learned to dive in my 20s when we were living in London, so mid 20s or something. I can't remember. And then I did dive holidays all the time, right? And then when we got married, bought me a whole dive set, BCD rigs, fin, everything, right, as a wedding present. So I had my own gear for the first time, and then I just really went crazy diving. Every holiday we could, been diving. Really ratcheted it up, and I got probably easily 400 plus. When we had our daughter, I went on a dive trip on my own with some friends. It was a bit crazy diving. I came back and said to Izza, "That's the crazy diving over." It's just, once you've got children and it's just a priority shift. And also just the business and time was getting harder. So I haven't dived regularly probably for at least 6, 7 years. But I try to fit it in when we go to certain places, yeah.
You've also done a dive at the Japanese Navy wrecks in the caves. Talk to me, for someone who's never dived, what does being 40 meters underwater teach you that business could never teach?
It's I actually think it's about risk and it's about preparation. Diving is like any sport, horse riding, skiing, there's risks, right? And you can dive and you can de-risk as much as you like, right? You can dive in very safe environments or as safe as possible environments. You can dive in 10 meters in very calm seas. There's still risk, right? But that particular trip, it was on the limits of what you can do with the certifications we have, right, and the kit we had. And I had multiple issues that trip and failures, different kit and that sort of things. All the prep, all the experience you have, you can't completely de-risk the situation. So I think from a business lesson point of view is, you can't eliminate the risks in your business. You can't eliminate the environmental situation. Look at the world at the moment. Look what's happening. The world order is shifting. You can't control those things, but you can be prepared for them. And I think that particular trip, I've never had certain failures and issues and those sorts of experiences, but all the training and prep, all the dives you've done, prepare you for it. So when it does happen, or you have very extreme diving, and you have something happens to you or your kit fails, you're ready for it. And I think putting yourself in situations where, it's risky, but you're prepared for it, I think is a good thing. I think I always say to our team, and I say the work I do at the university I'm doing, I say, how do you know where the limits are unless you step over it or you approach the limit? So you never know where the limits are, right? You can operate in a very safe space, but how do you know where the limit is, where the boundary is, unless you actually step over it? A bit like me playing football, and you get a yellow card or a red card. You need to get a yellow card, right, to understand what triggers a yellow card. It's the same in business, the same in life, same with sports. You know your limits, but you've got to find that, right? You do that by pushing yourself and putting yourself in situations that are challenging. But yeah, diving did that for me. Now it's a bit more, hopefully get more time, is like motorsport and these sort of things. Put you in a situation where you actually, I'm actually outside my experience bubble here. And the same applies to business, I think. The sectors you're working in, the geography you want to grow into, the type of services or adjacencies you want to build. How do you know unless you try, right? How do you know? You've got to try and be prepared. Like your question about failures and trying things in the business, that helps you next time. We're much better now at geography and choosing geographies and adjacencies and services because we've tried and we failed. It's the best way of learning, I think.
What's the closest that you've come to panicking underwater? And if you have, you
That
recover
trip.
from that.
That trip. But I think I'm quite calm. I've had this said to me before, but I think I'm quite calm in a pressured environment or crisis or stressful. I don't know. I think I generally can take a fair amount of stress and crisis, if you like. So diving, I mean, it's been different situations. It's been situations where I felt very, very uncomfortable and at risk. And diving in the Red Sea off Sudan, there's moments where I thought this goes wrong. There's nothing. You're in big trouble. The one in the Philippines with the Japanese fleet, there's a cave dive, and there's moments in that where I thought there's no training or preparation. This goes wrong, we're done. And you just have to be calm because you know that it's going to be okay if you just keep calm. A bit like your question at the beginning, give yourself space, slow it down. It's the same in that dive. There's a cave dive in the Philippines where the sand comes up and you can't see anything. I was actually with people who are less experienced, and they look to you By that moment, they're looking at you. They know you've done hundreds of dives, and you've got to be very, very calm, because they're looking straight. If you're calm, they'll be calm. If you start, wide-eyed and getting flustered, they're going to get even worse. So same applies in business, I think, Sohin, right? It's like you need to be the one. We had it in class, right? You need to be the one that's transmitting that calm, collected view. Who else is going to do it, right? Yeah, diving's been a few moments of that, absolutely. But same as skiing. Skiing, there's moments in skiing as well. It can be quite stressful. But yeah, I think it applies to business, definitely.
Jeff, I've read somewhere that if someone says yawn a lot, you start yawning. And you've been saying calm so many times, I find myself feeling calm right now. So I appreciate that. Talk to me about OPM. What made you apply to OPM? How did you find out about the program?
Well, I didn't know about it until I went to a course at Harvard. I actually applied to it just for COVID, a private equity course. A client of mine had done this course, this 1 week course, residential like we did, but only a week. And he recommended it to me. And I deferred, I got onto that, but then COVID happened and I waited till after COVID. So this is about 2022. Went to that course with a friend of mine, a good friend of mine in the US, and had a great time for a week, but very frustrated because he thought, oh, this is like just getting started. And then on that course, I obviously met some great people, and then a few of them had done OPM. But on that course, I'd say 70% of the attendees were not business owners. They were private equity or investment, or for different reasons they were there, right? And there was a group of business owners as well. And a couple of them come up to myself and Jean-Marc, my friend, and he's a fourth generation business owner. And they just they recommended it. And they said, you guys should do OPM. And then I had a one-to-one with Kevin Mohan and about part of the course I was doing. And he also said the same thing. He said, oh, you guys should do this. It's you should do it, Jeff. It's exactly the right profile for this. You should look at it. And I did a bit of research, looks great, and the rest is history. Yeah. I actually applied to it with my friend, and for different reasons, I had to defer it a couple of times because of timing. The dates they had didn't work, and I think I deferred it twice. So I think I was originally on 64, 65, and then the timing worked great for 67. So it's been it's never going to be the best time to do it because you're always busy, but and then never look back. It's been fantastic experience. So all the recommendations, all the referrals I had, it's more than exceeded those expectations.
And from the OPM program Unit 1, is there a case or a professor that you find yourself being inspired by even today or most relevant to you?
I got something from all of them. I think we all say that, right? I think we all resonate with different ones, but I generally got something from all of them. I've spoken about this with some colleagues and friends. Like, I genuinely look forward to every class, and I genuinely did not want the class to end. All of them. Some of them much more than others, but that's the first thing. I particularly like the crisis ones. I don't know why. I just quite liked the experience of those and listening to that, and that the time flew. I quite liked Jeff's ones on leadership. I really liked his speaking style and the way he carried the room. I found that really impressive, and the subject I find it interesting as well. So I liked particularly Eugene and the finance topics and some of the governance topics as well. They pretty stood out. I mean, obviously, Ananth was very emotional and very powerful, especially at the end. Daz, a bit of a pantomime, but very funny and very impactful. And you took a lot away from every single class. You really did. I mean, because you prepped as well. But I put the governance ones, the finance ones, finance in particular, because I didn't do finance at college. I did computing, and it's a bit of an alien topic to me. So it's like being back at school. I really enjoyed that. Because I was learning a lot. So yeah, I can keep talking about it. So I think the history ones I found with Caroline, I found fascinating. I never studied history, right? So all the economics and that piece is just, for me, it was all new. So it was great fun. I took a lot from most of them, but I'd say finance, governance, crisis, those three were great. Yeah.
So you've spent years in global consulting. What's one piece of advice you wish someone would have told you or whispered to you when you were 25 years old?
I think there's a few. I think biggest one is network and relationships. And this applies to all of us, but consulting is a people business, right? But it applies to business generally, I think. But is be very, very focused on your network and be very focused on cultivating that in a very genuine way, right? So If you don't have time, don't pretend you do. You make time for people, focus on your network, build those relationships, and it starts straight out in college. It starts immediately when you go to work. It doesn't ever stop. That's a very important lesson. You can't be told that young enough, I don't think. I think you've got to really focus on that. I think consulting especially, but I think in business generally, if you want to build a business, you need to have a strong network. You need to be able to connect with people. You need to be very focused on that. So that's one. I would say take your career, again, back to my own comment, I take your career slowly. It's not a race. It's not, it might feel like it in your mid 20s, late 20s, but it's not a race. You've got so much time. You really do. You just need to take it easy. You've got plenty of time. You're going to have ups and downs. But sort of my 25-year-old self, you're going to have moments where you go backwards, and it's okay because for every 2 steps back, there'll be 5 steps forward. Don't worry about it. So I think they're the two things. You've got so much time. Don't stress. Just don't make the right decisions and focus on your network and relationships. A bit like the balance sheets topic we had at the end. That really stuck with me. Finance capabilities, personal relationships, these things, it really matters. So personal relationships, network, definitely. You can't start soon enough.
Jeff, is there a hill that you're still climbing personally or professionally that people don't realize?
That's a good question. I'd say the people don't realize part is a good point. And this is what, going back to the course, it's very rare you get to talk to people that are in the same situation as you. I think you've heard this, probably a common thread in the conversations you had. On the course, OPM, everyone is generally in the same situation. They are owning a business, running a business, they're CEO, or they have been, or they're in that situation. And you can speak, they get it, right? So I guess the one thing that people don't realize as a founder, first-time founder, is what do you do next, right? So if you're a second gen or third gen business, it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's implied, but you're gonna build, you're steward, you're owning the business, you're cultivating it to make it a better place for the next generation, probably, right? Especially if it's third, fourth generation. The first time founders, it's a real question. What are you going to do now? Are you going to IPO? Are you going to list? Are you going to sell it? Are you going to raise investment? Are you going to just carry on the way you were doing? That is the constant question. And I don't think unless you've been in that situation, or you're a family business, or you're owning a business, I don't think people really realize that daily challenge. It's I wouldn't say it's constantly on your mind, but it's a genuine question you're constantly asking yourself, and you're looking at that. What should we do? 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, 6 years, next week? It's a factor, and we don't talk about that enough. I think our team probably realize it, but they don't really probably understand that dilemma you're facing more or less all the time. Yeah. I think for family businesses, it's a similar thing, but it's more about the pressure and responsibility of maintaining what you've taken on as a steward. It's a similar dynamic. They're probably constantly thinking about it as well. And that was the great thing about the course, is you were able to talk about these things.
If your kids watch this someday, what's the one that you hope they hear in your voice?
Well, the first thing is I've got to persuade her to watch it. So she might. I would say just do what I say it to her already. I actually think school is the hardest time of your life. Like, getting to 18 is tough. Getting to uni and whatever comes next, whether you do uni or not, not everyone does uni, but if whatever comes next after school, is just do what you enjoy, right? Don't just do something because you think you should be doing it. Do what you enjoy. At school, only some of the things you enjoy, right? Not everyone likes history or doing languages or maths. Not everyone. Some people love maths. So you have to suffer a bit. That saying, you have to suffer to be beautiful. I think you have to suffer a bit at school, right? You have to get through it, right? Just get it done. Once you're out and you're in either you're studying or you're working, as long as you're doing things you enjoy, it's going to be great. I love consulting. I love technology. I love working with problems and businesses. And so consulting is my happy place. And I probably didn't realize that till I was probably like my late 20s. That's the environment I want to be in. I moved a little bit to find that, and I found it. And then what I really found I enjoyed was building a business. So to get the two together at the same time, it's just been fantastic. I would say to our daughter and others in the same situation is get to the point where you can do what you enjoy, That takes a bit of graft and effort to study and get through school. Then you have the opportunity to do what you enjoy, and then stick to it. Just keep yourself doing that, and you'll be fine. You'll be absolutely fine.
Jeff, the next question is one I'm very excited to ask you because I see a stack of books behind you, which is not something I usually see. What's a book that you feel has influenced you a lot or changed your mindset?
Oh, there's plenty. I mean, I used to be quite an avid reader. My mum's a massive reader, but time is challenging. I'm more a podcast guy now, but I do read, give or take, a book a month, right? But I used to be a little bit more, but there's many. But one, I think it depends what the audience is, right? So from an entrepreneurial perspective or from an insight to what it's really like to build a business, I think Shoe Dog, the Nike story, is one of the best. Branson's ones are quite good. The first one in particular, because it's just crazy how entrepreneurial he was. Branson just tried everything, right? If you want to get a feeling what it's like to build a business as a first-time founder, really genuinely how scary it can be and how on the limit you are constantly, from a point of view of finance and cash flow and payroll and trying to grow the business and expand it and all these dynamics you're dealing with, I think Shoe Dog is one of the best. So Shoe Dog, for anyone who wants to know what it's really like, I think it's a great story. And it's still going. The story's still running, right? It's not over. It's a great one. That's a good one, yeah. There's many others. I think $1 Billion Whale is quite a good one for governance and how things can get a bit crazy and out of control before you know it. $1 Billion Whale. Those two books stand out for me, yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Finish this sentence for us. Entrepreneurship is a lot like scuba diving because.
Entrepreneurship is a lot like scuba diving because I think it's about controlled risk. I think it's about putting yourself in an inherently risky situation and being comfortable with that. And that's how I'd summarize it. Entrepreneurship is like scuba diving because it's about controlling risk and putting yourself in an inherently risky situation.
My last question for you. If you were teaching an OPM elective tomorrow and it was called the Cronkshaw method, what would be the first lesson?
I know. I've got to. So I think I already know. It'll be entrepreneurship, right? And it's not a business until you've sent out an invoice and it's been paid. It's not a business until you sent out an invoice and it's been paid. That's lesson number one. And we'll talk all about why that is. I get so frustrated. And this is interesting. At OPM, when I was meeting other like yourself and other business owners and first-time founders and family businesses, exactly the same. They all get it. It's like they get very. Remember that case we're talking, or that situation we're talking about building a business via researching a problem or just having an idea. I can't remember.
Research-based. Yeah.
Yeah. Research-based versus development. I can't remember. But a lot of us were really frustrated with that. It's like it's not a business. It's not a business. And I always say to people, I meet a lot of VC and startups, and a lot of us on the course find it frustrating as well. It's like it's not a business. You've got to have a service someone wants. You've got to be able to sell that service. You've got to be able to deliver that service, bill for that service, and have the person actually pay you for that service. Then you've got a business. That's the full life cycle. Then you can say, I have a business. You can get all the way to give an invoice out, but if they don't pay you, it's not a business still, right? And I think that's the most important lesson for those who are starting out or family businesses that want to start a new venture or new adjacencies. It's not valid until they're paying you. I think we all get that. And I think if there was to be an elective around that, that would be one. Like, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this because we can learn a lot of lessons around trying things as adjacencies that don't work. So you've got to be able to get all the way to payment. I think that would be there'd be some great cases, wouldn't there, around adjacencies that have failed and trying things that are too risky or not thinking things through enough to be able to bill for it or deliver the service. So that'd be one. Yeah, I think there's many others.
Jeff, thank you very much. That's all I have here. If there's anything you feel you still want to add, now's the time.
No, it's been great to catch up with you and see you again. Thank you again for the opportunity to talk on the podcast. I'm really enjoying following it. I think it's going to be a great asset. It already is, but give it another 6 months or so, it's going to be fantastic. I'm really enjoying it. It's a really nice way of, you don't get a chance to speak to everyone in so much detail. I'm learning a lot about our classmates and it's a great way of staying in touch and listening to people before we see each other again in November. Thank you for doing it. It's a lot of time you're taking. So well done you.
Yeah, thank you.